Hey everybody. Morning. Morning. I gotta tell you. Morning, Tony.
Morning, Mayor.
I gotta tell you something. I think that's, we have hit or miss on our press conferences in terms of media attendance, and this isn't, comprehensive plans don't necessarily make for must-see TV. So I am thrilled that everybody's here today. But most of what we do in government is not sexy. It's not the stuff of game shows. It's the hard work of thinking and planning and doing, and that's why we are here today. Why don't you guys come over here? Come over here. I don't think I'm carrying any infectious diseases today. All right, so we are here today to announce the city's new comprehensive plan, formerly known as a master plan. These days in planning circles, they are called comprehensive plans, but essentially the same thing. It is a roadmap for the city's future that is the combined work of a lot of folks in city government, a lot of folks outside of city government who care about their city, have contributed in a number of ways, including at public hearings over the last many years. And before I begin, I wanted to say offer a few prefatory remarks about why we plan, why we do these things, right? So the quick answer is, well, the state requires each city and town in Massachusetts to have them, but that's not, frankly, that block checking exercise isn't what this is about. Rather, it is about the way we approach governance and about the way we approach city building. So some of you probably have heard me in times past quote the sociologist Richard Florida, who's among the most prominent, one of the leading observers of the urban scene in America and North America generally. I think he's from Toronto, so I say North America generally, but he's deeply influential. He did that study that people talk about all the time about the most artistic cities in America. Did that ranking where New Bedford's number 7. That was some years ago, but he's done a lot of work. And I commend his work to everybody who cares about the life of cities in America. But one of the things that he said is, in studying cities for a long time, he said that the successful places are those that are intentional. In other words, it isn't just sort of the randomness of luck that one city thrives and another doesn't. It is certainly some cities have more assets to bear than others, and some grow and some don't, some thrive and some don't, but it isn't just a matter of luck. It is a matter of being intentional, meaning having a vision for oneself, bringing people together in service of that vision, and then working really hard on it. And which I find to be, frankly, an uplifting observation, right? That we actually have the power in our hands to shape the course of our city and are not just sort of blown by the wind and hoping for the best. So you can't do it unless you have a plan. You got to be able to think through not only the sort of the state of things in your city, but where you're going in light of all sorts of internal and external forces, what's going on in the world, ranging from new technologies to the state of financial markets to the weather itself. And so we in New Bedford pride ourselves on doing a whole lot of planning. And this is, it may be, I hasten to add, like the boring part of government. We do this stuff pretty thoughtfully and meticulously. But we do plan because it's important. And then from those plans, there are a series of sub-plans that emerge from them. I'll talk about that in a second. But here in New Bedford, the way that we've conceived of ourselves in light of what we know about our place in the world is that New Bedford is a center city. It is not part of a major metro. And it's not part of Greater Boston, as we all know. It sits on its own bottom, and it is surrounded by suburbs that are tied to this city, roughly 250,000 people in what we refer to as Greater New Bedford, and the city itself a little over 100,000. And we have certain assets that we drive to make our city go and to create opportunity for our residents. But it is as that status as a center city that from so much else emerges. How we go about running city government, how we compete economically, how we make our city livable and elevate the quality of life for everyone as best we can. And so that's the lens that's the prism that we look at all of our work through, and that's what we've been doing really since I got into office. We had along the way a lot of folks who have contributed a whole lot of thoughts about what we do for New Bedford and Greater New Bedford to make it continue to thrive and thrive more in the years ahead. And so Jen is going to talk, Jen Carloni, who's taking a cameo from her maternity leave right now, is here today. So for the first time in a while, she is without carrying a child, no child in tow today. I'm sure she misses him dearly, but we'll get to that in a second. But the planning department, who was fully into this for the last couple of years, did a great job moving this ahead and engaging the public. When I say engaging the public, a number of public hearings, places like the Gomes School and a number of others, sites across the city, engaging the business community, engaging the faith community, lots of folks to get the best input from everybody, because what we want is, frankly, at the end of the day, a plan that works, that is as inclusive as possible across every facet of our city. So they did that, and they did a spectacular job with it. I want to just say, like, right up front, I want to give thanks to a few people here. There's a long list of folks who are involved. I'm not going to go through the entire list. They are in the plan itself, which I'll hold up for Peter Pereira just to make sure he gets a good shot of a YouTube end. But and we've got copies, so I think we'll pass the. We'll do that. Pete, one more time. This one's a nicer one. Thanks, man. I always like the upward shots. It makes me look like I have more of a defined chin, Pete. Thanks for doing that. Yeah. But a lot of people worked on this for a long time, and so headed up by Jen, who just did a really fabulous job, really pushed on this, really made the case to the city council to fund it, which was important. The work itself was funded by both the city council as well as a state grant totaling about $250,000, a lot of work. These are not cheap exercises, but they are very important. And Laurel, Rachel Mulroy, Mike McCarthy, all of them, fabulous job, guys, in advancing this work, working on the writing, crafting it, and making it just so. Medium Studios, of course, making it look terrific. It really does look good, and it's very compelling just visually. I want to say thanks to the planning board, Arthur Glassman, who's our chair, vice chair Peter Cruz, Shane Trimble, Catherine Duff, from whom you'll hear in a moment, Camille Kazan as well. The consultants were Agency Landscape and Design, and Hissel Flynn, Cambridge Economics, Innis Land Strategies Group, a group of consultants, each playing a different role that Jen can describe as well. And then the large steering committee of many of the folks who are in this room, Tony Sapienza, the chair of the Economic Development Council and the chair of lots of other things in the city, played a big role in this as well. City departments, Michelle Paul, our environmental steward, there's a big piece of this is on resilience, of course, which is very important to us. Jen Vieira from DFFM, Josh Amaral from Housing and Community Development, the Mayor's Office, particularly Christina Connolly, Parks and Rec, Mary Raposa, who's the department head there, the school department under Andrew O'Leary, and Explore New Bedford, our tourism department, Ashley Payne. Right here, of course, everybody knows Ashley. And then our economic development team, including Gordon Carr from the Port Authority, Derek Santos from the EDC, as well as Margo Sonia, the city's creative consultant. And again, a lot of other people, way too many names. The names are in there, but in not naming people, I don't mean to exclude them from my expression of gratitude. They did a lot of great work. So what's in the plan? So as I said, it builds off the city's progress over the last many years. The progress we've made in making the city safer. Crime is way down over the last decade, as you've heard me say before, but also the city's finances are more stable. We've modernized the port with shepherding over $1 billion worth of new investments in infrastructure and dredging. All the parks that we built, the Cove Walk, the Harbor Walk, the new schools, the trees, all these things that we've done. So the city has, and then other assets like the passenger rail service that's now in place, and a lot of the development of a restaurant scene, all these things that are making New Bedford stand up on its own 2 feet. And ultimately, that's what we want to do. We want the city to have a greater level of agency than the city that it was, which was a declining post-industrial urban center that really really couldn't find its way. We want New Bedford to be able to stand on its own 2 feet, and that's why we're doing all that we do. So what's in the plan? So some of the plan will look very familiar to folks, but it starts for us in so many ways, and it's all interrelated, but there are different pillars. Economic competitiveness is a huge one for us, and that will take the economic development section of this comprehensive plan, and it'll be its own economic development plan. So when you see the city passing out its economic development plan in the years ahead, it'll be essentially that chapter, but it really is founded on the city's assets. The city's, we thrive by playing the cards in our hand, the strongest cards. Like the city's has the leading commercial fishing port in America. It has, which has also become a leading offshore wind port, which is becoming a major marine tech center as well. It's shaping up to be in the years ahead. So we drive that. We drive the arts and culture scene, which is a huge set of strengths for us. Major arts institutions, the working artists in the city, some of whom are here, and all the other things that make New Bedford distinct. The story of New Bedford itself which is distinct in America, I would submit, in so many ways. Building on the infrastructure that we have, we've made so much progress on being able to build out important infrastructure, not just in the port, but also surface transportation. Work on, like right as we speak, on $300 million viaduct project on 195, the airport, runways, all these things, way too many things to name, things above ground and below ground. And then to drive things like ensure that, like as in every city has to have a strong downtown. There's a lot of discussion about that as well. And then creating an environment in which small businesses can thrive. The next pillar has to do with thriving neighborhoods. What does it take? What does it take to make New Bedford a great place to live in any neighborhood? And so we talk about city government there. We talk about housing, and on the matter of housing, which is something we talk about a lot. It incorporates a lot of the Building New Bedford plan that we issued about a year and a half ago. We talk a lot about just safety, livability, schools, all those things. And then as far as other city building goes, there were lots of other projects and public spaces that we're enhancing across the city to elevate the city's quality of life. And then we talk about the land use principles that will allow us to facilitate all this development. So it is a roadmap, and I'm not going to go into every last detail, but what we try to do is we will emerge from this are a bunch of goals, well, a number of sub-plans, so things like a harbor plan. One harbor plan is coming up, but also a maritime strategic plan, which is more sort of will be more to the point about how we continue to activate business and investment in the port. The school's new strategic plan will be emerging before the end of the year. We'll also have things like a manufacturing white paper that's about to be published as well. So there are lots of elements here that will emerge, and for all of us, with every plan, we will set specific goals and execute toward them, and that's what we do. So, I say all this, and I'm going to just ask Jen to say a little bit about the process in a second, but I wanted to close with this point. Then after Jen and Catherine are done, we'll open it up for questions. we live in a time where government at many levels, especially the federal government, but in many other places, is primarily performative. It's about sort of demonizing folks or about inflaming problems and saying, you know, who's at fault, and instead not being focused on problem solving, on planning, on doing the dirty work, not the dirty work, the less exciting, the less sexy work of government. And we in New Bedford have taken a decidedly different approach. You know, I didn't get elected to be a game show host. We are here, and people expect city government to deliver, to think through problems, complex and otherwise, and to work really hard with everybody. And sometimes we disagree, sometimes we don't, but what distinguishes New Bedford, frankly, is despite the city's diverse interests, despite all of its craziness that's going on in the world these days, New Bedford rose in the same direction, and that is a testament to our folks here, and I think in our businesses and everybody who cares about the city, and it is why the city has made so much progress over the last several years, and why, frankly, I'm confident that we'll be able to keep it going. Again, I want to thank everybody who played a role in this, because it's a really important document, and much will follow from this in the years ahead. So with all that, I want to ask Jen Carloni to come up. So Jen, yes, so this is that big of a deal, such that Jen has broken away from her maternity leave. No guilt trip here. She's left her newborn back home. Here she is. She's here for all of you guys to tell you about the plan. But I just really want to thank her for all of her work and her team's work for pulling all this stuff together. It's taken a lot of effort, but I think it's a document that speaks for itself, and we're really excited to start executing on it, Jen. So without any further ado, tell us more, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
All right, thank you for being here to celebrate this exciting milestone as we launch our Citywide Comprehensive Plan. This plan is more than a policy document. It's a shared vision for our city's future, a blueprint for how we grow, adapt, and strengthen New Bedford over the coming decade. Under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 41, Section 81D, cities and towns are encouraged to adopt and update a comprehensive plan every decade. It's a blueprint that guides long-term growth and development. The plan looks at every major aspect of community life, from land use, housing, economic development, to natural resources, transportation, public facilities, and open space. The plan process allows us to take measure of how we've grown, how we've changed, and where we wish to go next. The comprehensive plan allows us to do that thoughtfully and collaboratively, ensuring that our progress is intentional and inclusive. This plan also recognizes that New Bedford is unique among cities and its breadth of its impact reaching well beyond our borders. As a city with a long tradition of innovation, resilience, and welcoming diverse residents, New Bedford's story has always been connected to the world around it. The plan emphasizes the city's important relationships at the local, the regional, and even the global scale, reflecting how deeply our economy, our culture, and identity are intertwined with those of the region, the Commonwealth, and beyond. Now, from the earliest stages of this process, residents express deep pride, both in New Bedford's growing influence and the strength of our neighborhoods. That blend of global reach and local character became the foundation of this plan. I want to sincerely thank everyone who contributed, the steering committee members here today, the planning team from my office, really wonderful participation, and from everyone in our office, attending all those various meetings, going to your soccer clubs, going to the neighborhood meetings, really wonderful, and all the writing that we've done. The many city departments that we have such a great coalesce of departments that really work together and really led to this plan. Our consultant team, Agency Landscape and Design, our graphic designers, Medium Studio, for this beautiful layout that you see here and this beautiful print. Our community partners, and all the residents who gave their time, ideas, and passions to this process. Together, we've created a plan that reflects our city's proud history, its creative energy, and its determination to move forward boldly. Thank you for helping chart the next chapter of New Bedford's history.
All right, thank you, Jen. I think you should have brought little Eddie to this, but that's okay. So next up is Catherine Duff, who is a long-time serving member of the city's planning board, but who's also an extraordinary architect. Her firm, Studio to Sustain, has done innumerable projects in the city, but her work extends far beyond New Bedford, and she's really understood nationally to be a first-rate architect and somebody that we go to for planning purposes and for design input and a whole lot in the way of planning guidance. And so this was one instance in which, because of the importance of this and the comprehensiveness of the comprehensive plan, we had to have Catherine at the table for her wisdom and her insight and her creativity. So pleased to introduce Catherine Duff to say a few words.
Wow, thank you, Mayor, for that. And
You sound
thank you,
surprised.
Jen. I'm a little, teary-eyed about that. So, and I ditto everything the mayor said, and absolutely ditto everything Jen said. And I'm not gonna repeat those. I'll just say, planning is a privilege. It's a lot of work and it's a duty, but most importantly, it's a privilege. And as a member of the planning board, I have both the privilege and the duty to work with my colleagues on the board and to work with the planning staff to review, assess, and evaluate development projects that come before the boards. And as a member of the Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee, being the planning board representative on that committee, I have the privilege of participating in the process of developing goals and policies that direct development and envision a future for our great port city. And so I'm going to add one more quote from the brilliant environmentalist and scientist E.O. Wilson, an educator actually. He said, innovation happens at the intersection of art and science. And I would say that those meetings that the planning staff, Michael, Ann, oh my gosh, Jen, pulled together for the public participation in this process had an iterative process to it. You got your hands dirty. There were markers, there were whiteboards, there were Post-its, there was recorders. You could articulate yourself, your vision with words, with drawings, with all sorts of tools. And those charrettes, and they would break out into group sessions, and it happened at various parts of the city, were so informative to me as a member of the planning board, because it gave me an opportunity to be a better listener, to participate in the creative process and that iterative process, and to then be able to hear some of the needs and some of the ideas that were populating our great port city. And yes, there's common themes, but there's this idiosyncratic aspect to each individual neighborhood. And those were tools that I'm able to bring back to the planning board and continue to evolve and be a better planner, frankly. So this was a terrific opportunity. And I just want to thank everyone who came out to those sessions, all of the citizenry, the small businesses, all of the leaders, everyone who participated in those committees. It's because of your observations and your ideas and your questions that pushed us to really go back as members of the steering committee and make this plan, what it is. And then lastly, I'll just say that it's dynamic. Planning is dynamic. It's dynamic in that it's robust and it's incredible, but it's dynamic in that it's a process that continues to evolve. So while, yes, this is a milestone, it's a fantastic milestone. Everybody here should take a bow for it. I just want to reach out to everyone and say the work begins now. It doesn't end now. It begins now. Now we're going to start to participate in this whole process of bringing our great port city and trying to achieve some of these goals and understanding that the process is dynamic. Things change. the global situation changes. Everything, it's constantly evolving, and we're going to keep evolving with it. So let's just say that today the work begins, and I hope to have even more participation at all of these planning boards moving forward, because it's really important to attend those, and also public events as we move forward. So thank you. It's been an honor and a privilege.
Thank you. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Kathy. All right, so before I open up a question, again, I just want to say thanks to everybody for their work on this. A lot went into it. A lot of folks participated, and that's as it should be. And I think we have something. A lot of work is being done. It's not like all of a sudden, okay, now it's time to go to work, right? Obviously, we were executing on a lot of fronts and evaluating ourselves along the way. But you need to stop every once in a while and say, okay, what's the direction moving forward? Especially as a lot of things right now are changing, and we've had to make certain pivots in a number of fronts. So this is the general direction, and we look forward to continuing to work with everybody to make our city a better place. All right, questions? Go ahead, Grace.
Is there anything in this plan that you would describe as a very significant change from the way the city's been doing things before?
I don't think so. No, I think it is. The approach is the same, which is from the city government's perspective, to run a city government that is skillful and above board, and that plans and that holds itself accountable and is transparent. From the city's perspective, right? So it's not just, this isn't just a plan for city government, it's for everybody to find ways to contribute to. But we conceive of ourselves in the same way. We're a center city, not part of a major metro, and in a world in which cities like ours have to hustle more than major metros, which in so many cases are living through golden ages. And we do, as the song said, as Muhammad Ali used to say, accentuate the positive and eliminate the negative. We work on those, we drive the assets we have, and we do it for the benefit of everybody. Like how?
On land use and zoning, if this plan achieves its goals, are there any neighborhoods that residents will see changes in or will feel difference, or are there anything that you hope to upscale that people could identify with a certain area that they might see change?
Yeah, I don't, well, so I'll let you address it directly. I'll just say, Jen, but I'll just say generally that, yeah, there'll be some. It's not, the plan doesn't provide for a status quo for the next 15 years in every neighborhood. I think in single-family neighborhoods there won't be much of a visible change at all, if any. But in a number of neighborhoods, especially along transit corridors, you will see changes appropriately. So if you want to elaborate on that.
And so as the mayor was just alluding to, it's a living document, right? So we've already begun a lot of those changes regarding our zoning. And as you see around the room, there are a couple areas that, again, primarily those commercial corridors and their abutting residential neighborhoods and how those intertwine. And so a lot of this plan identified that our regulations are outdated and moving them forward, which we've already put forth with dimensional changes. We know that a lot of what exists out there today doesn't match what our existing zoning is. A lot of, if you've been paying attention to some of the zoning changes, they're dimensional regulations. If you go to our 3-family districts, the lot size requirement exceeds well above what is currently out there if you will live in a 3-family now. So we're trying to match those through some of the zoning revisions that we've made and really change those zoning so that it's not as cumbersome for development, whether it's housing, whether it's commercial development, because we're seeing those issues pop up and we want to address them, whether it's parking, dimensional requirements, and it's really modernizing zoning to meet the needs of an urban city like ours and really promote those districts, downtown, Acushnet Avenue, Klasky Common area, are where we're looking at right now. But these are models for zoning studies that we'd like to continue moving forward. So different districts will be looking forward as we go over the next decade. But a lot of this stuff is you can reuse in different districts throughout the city. So.
All right. Yeah, and I'll just add this. A lot of that is not new. We have before the city council proposals to change the dimensional requirements and to change the parking requirements and other zoning reforms that we think will remove some constraints from the housing supply in the city. But that's one example. As you can see here and some of the other illustrations, in the central waterfront, we've been pushing a long time to develop the state pier in a way that it's the waterfront, that allows for the knitting of the waterfront and the downtown together, because we think, again, the waterfront is an enormous asset for the city, and we want to bring people to it. Just to use this example, we're really excited about the Riverwalk and the prospect for that. We're about to apply for a Chapter 91 license to the state and go through a MIPA process, another environmental review, so that we can start to activate all of that. And that's going to be, for the next several years, a really big project for the city. But the idea is to not only create recreational space, but also investment opportunities there that will benefit the entirety of the North End, especially the near North End. Those are two examples, but they do represent changes in neighborhoods that we think will be very beneficial in the long run. All right, others, questions? Yeah, go ahead.
Now, all three of you mentioned significant public participation
Yeah.
in terms of the development of this plan. What would you say were some of the biggest pieces of feedback that you heard, and how have they been incorporated?
Yeah, great question. You want to field them, Jen?
So I think one thing we need to recognize is when we started this plan, we were coming out of the COVID era. So there's been a lot of change, and that's why we've taken our time, very thoughtful in this process. A lot of things that we've heard is really a deep pride for the city, it being a city, and really people appreciating that and understanding that, and publicizing that out to the world. I think that came through in a lot of our initial steering committee meetings, meeting with the public, really recognizing and promoting the wonderful assets that we have here in New Bedford. We did AHA Night, and that's what we heard from the public. Like, there's so many great things here, people don't know about it unless you're from this area, and really singing our song about this beautiful community, the assets, the waterfront, our cultural institutions, our creative economy. All of those things were really just brought to the forefront when we did these public meetings. People love their neighborhoods. We went to many neighborhood meetings. As I indicated, like Rachel went to her soccer club. We have all these communities, members who just love their neighborhoods. They love the architectural features. So keeping our history, recognizing it, not losing it, and moving it forward in the city. So that's really what we heard a lot about.
Yeah, go ahead, Ben.
This is a 10-year plan.
10-ish.
Do you think you'll be here the whole time as mayor to see it all the way through?
I'm aging in place, man. I don't know. I take a multivitamin. I'll be here for a long time. No, look, what we try to do, in all seriousness, that's where the public input comes in, right? So you want these things to have organic support so that they transcend mayoral administrations in terms of city councils, the current government. But that's the idea. Go ahead, Colin.
Manufacturing is included as part of this.
Yeah.
Again, if the plan comes to fruition, if it reaches its goals, what will the manufacturing sector look like that's different than today? And do you have any specific industry types or companies that you're targeting?
Yeah, well, so I think it's just fair to say generally that we want more manufacturing, right? And there is a trend toward reshoring of manufacturing. Some of it's overstated, but we do think there are opportunities here, and that's why we're, among other things, are working on freeing up commercial space at the municipal golf course to allow for some modern manufacturing facilities to be developed there. The work that we're doing right now with the redevelopment authority to do some site assembly in places that are not well developed, also will free up still more land. In terms of just sort of type, I would say it's the kind of stuff that builds on what we already have. So we'd look for opportunities and are looking for opportunities with companies that are, for instance, in the medical device space, because we have those types of companies here. Sporting goods, we've got Titleist and Snell Golf and Ahead, all those, so that's a sweet spot for us, so I would submit. And then, of course, maritime-related manufacturing. These are all things that we're doing. The EDC is about to issue a white paper on this, so I don't want to steal their thunder on it, right, Mary Hill? But it's, I think it speaks to all those things. We have about 14% of our workforce is in manufacturing, so New Bedford's still a manufacturing center. As much as the maritime sector and the arts and culture sector get a lot of the press, that we still make stuff in New Bedford. We want to do more of that. Yep.
Something along those lines, Mayor, I know you mentioned offshore wind earlier, and obviously there's a good degree of uncertainty at the present moment with
Yep.
the current administration about a lot of projects, a lot that would be off the coast of New Bedford as well.
Right.
How much of that is sort of calculated, I guess, into this plan?
Yeah, I think that's a fair question. So, our approach in the maritime space has been to take advantage of what we have, which is a deep water port with great and still improving infrastructure, the best seafaring workforce in America, and a political environment that is very committed to the work on the water. And so that allows for a number of industries, we think, to continue to thrive. So fishing, of course, is top of the list. We're primarily a fishing port, but there are other industries that can continue to thrive. Offshore wind is certainly one of those. We've worked very hard to position ourselves to be a leader in the offshore wind industry. It's our feeling that offshore wind is not dead, not nearly. It is going to come back at some point. Hard to know right now when that will happen, but it's here. I mean, you can all see right on our waterfront that Vineyard Wind is being completed right now. It's a long ways away, and then it is going to be operated. And so there will be some activity just with respect to that one project from here, as well as from Revolution Wind and Sunrise Wind. There's a lot of support from New Bedford that those projects avail themselves of. So in the next few years, it will be slow, we anticipate, but offshore wind has always been for us a diversification play, just as we do a lot of work, even more work now, an increasing amount of work in the maritime tech space. That again, we're building on what we already do well, and we're trying to activate still more innovation, so that's an area where we can thrive.
Grace, the last one.
Just sort of touching on that uncertainty, like what's the thinking on funding a lot of these planning efforts going forward? Like, for example, in the Building New Bedford plan,
Yeah.
a lot of that was pandemic money that doesn't exist anymore. So
Yeah.
where is the city going to find the money to continue to stimulate this?
Well, yeah, so to take the housing example head on, I mean, what we think, what we presume is that we'll see still more housing opportunities for two reasons. One is that the return on investment here is growing better because the rents are higher than they were before. So I think the project at the former Hole in the Ground, which has some public subsidy but is a pretty ambitious project by our standards, is going forward because the market is firmer than it used to be. I think the second thing is that the reforms that Jen described that are meant, and that frankly every city should be doing, they're meant to remove barriers to supply will help. If you don't have to, if zoning is clear and if you don't have to have as many parking spaces, for instance, and if you can fit, you can buy some land that's pretty cheap but doesn't necessarily meet our dimensional requirements now. After that fixed, then there will be more opportunities to build. So, but more generally, as a matter of cost, as you go through the plan, you'll see that there are some things that will continue to will cost money. Some of the capital projects, so continuing to modernize the port will require us to find funding elsewhere, but we've been doing that for years now. Most of that 1.2, I'd say about 95% of that $1.2 billion of investment in the port did not come out of the city coffers. So what we do is we plan well, we advocate, and we align funding streams so that we can make those things happen. So the approaches will be the same. All right. Well, thanks everybody. Read through it. It's good. Put it on your nightstand. It's good stuff. But again, I just want to thank everybody for all their hard work on this. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.